Daniel McKenzie, good evening. Democratic lawmakers know they have the votes right now to pass an assault weapons ban in the first week of January, but they're also preparing for intense criticism and lawsuits if the plan in fact becomes law. The Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority says 11 states have laws that prevent the sale of high-capacity magazines and prohibit rapid-fire devices that effectively turn weapons into fully automatic guns.
When an assault weapon or a high-capacity magazine is used in a public mass shooting, almost 14 times as many people are injured and twice as many people are killed.
Governor J.B. Pritzker declared gun violence a public health crisis for Illinois in November of 2021 and created an Office of Firearm Violence Prevention within the Department of Human Services. While the number of shootings has gone down over the past year, Assistant DHS Secretary Chris Patterson says the accessibility of what he calls weapons of war continues to devastate communities.
Something for us to consider is that what kind of common sense society are we creating for our children now that gun violence is the leading cause of their death?
Still, House Republican leader-elect Tony McCombie says this legislation won't address the root causes of gun violence in Illinois.
HB 5855 will ultimately leave our neighborhoods, our communities, and women across Illinois vulnerable to be unprotected and unfortunately victimized.
A gun owner who witnessed the Highland Park mass shooting said he was devastated to see the disregard for life. Abraham Avalo says he knew something had to be done on the state level to address the attack, and he understands why Democrats support this plan. However, he says the proposed ban won't help Illinoisans because evil cannot be stopped unless the state finds a solution to change minds and hearts.
I'm all for that. But at what price, at what cost? For those of us who do not kill, for those of us who do follow the laws.
Illinois State Police will discuss this plan with state lawmakers on Tuesday. For now, reporting live in Springfield, Mike Miltich, WGEM News.